So to get started, we are going to be doing a slip knot, and I am going to be chaining 75. I have finished my chain. Now we are ready to start on our first row, and we are going to do a row of half double crochets, and we are going to be working in the back bump of the chain. So this is the front of our chain. If we turn it upside down, we have these bumps right here, and this is where we are going to be inserting our hook for this next row. So I am going to be doing a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook, so 1, 2. I'm going to turn it around, and this is where the back bump is right here, so I'm going to yarn over 1, 2, and I'm going to insert my hook in the back bump of the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull up all 3 loops, and I am very big. I'm marking my very first stitch. This is a way to not lose stitches, and I'll be doing this at every rows. And I am going to be continuing doing half double crochets in the back bump of the chain all the way across, and we will have a remaining 74 stitches for this size. And I am finishing my row of half double crochets in the back bump of my chain, and I am going to be chaining 1 and turning my work. So we are going to continue to work this panel. This is the front panel, and for every row we are going to start the row with the half double crochet and finishing the row with a half double crochet, and in between we are going to be doing half double crochets in the 3rd loop. So I am marking my first stitch once again. So the 3rd loop of our stitch is right at the front. So if we look from the top here, we have our V right here of our stitch. And then if we look at the very front here, this is the 3rd loop created from the half double crochet. So this is our V, where we would normally insert our hook right here. And we are going to take the 3rd loop, which is this one right here. So we are going to be doing this all the way across. So I'm going to yarn over, send my hook under the 3rd loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and I am going to be repeating this all the way to the end. And like I said, we are going to finish with a regular half double crochets. So we start with a half double crochet, we do half double crochet in the 3rd loop all the way across, and finish with a half double crochet. I am finishing my row, and I will be doing a regular half double crochet in my last stitch, and I am going to chain 1 and turn my work. So we are going to be repeating this row for a total of 18 rows for this size. And once again, I am going to do a half double crochet in my first stitch, and moving up my stitch marker so I don't lose my first stitch, just like so. And I am going to continue with my half double crochet in the 3rd loop, and finishing with the regular half double crochet. So once again, we are going to do a half double crochet in the first stitch, half double crochet in the last stitch, and our row will consist of half double crochets in the 3rd loop all the way across. And for this size, we are going to be doing this for a total of 18 rows. Now we can see that the half double crochet in the third loop creates this rib effect by pushing the stitches forward, and we are doing it on both sides. You can see it as well here because of the yarn, but it will be showing on both sides of the fabric. So I have finished my front panel. I did my 18 rows of half double crochet in the third loop, and now we are ready to get started on the back panel. So on the other side of our hooks, I have placed a stitch marker for this size on my 20th. So I counted 20 stitches, and on the 20th stitch I place a stitch marker. I am going to go ahead and chain one and turn my work. And once again, we are going to start with a half double crochet, and I'm going to place my stitch marker once again, and I am going to continue with our pattern and half double crochet in the third loop all the way across to the stitch before our stitch marker. So I am finishing my row, and now to create the armhole here, we are going to be chaining 21. Now that I have my 21 chains, and I am going to be doing a half double crochet in the second chain from the hook, so 1, 2, and I am going to repeat. Once again, don't forget to mark your first stitch, and I am going to repeat a half double crochet all the way back to the body, and from here onwards I will be carrying on with the half double crochet in the third loop all the way to the end of my row, where I will be doing a regular half double crochet. So I will carry on with my half double crochet all the way across my chains and resume the pattern once I've reached the body or the front of the sweater. I'm finishing up my last chain of half double crochet. Now that I've reached the front panel again, I will be doing half double crochets back in the third loop, and I will carry on all the way across. I am finishing my row, and I will be doing a half double crochet in the last stitch. And I am going to be chaining one and turning my work, and we are basically going to repeat the same pattern, this one row repeat all the way across the back panel, and we are going to be doing 46 rows, a total of 46 rows, so an additional 45 including this one, so 46 rows for this size. So once again, I am going to do a regular half double crochet at the beginning and doing half double crochet in the third loop all the way across and finishing with the half double crochet. And for this size, we will be doing 46 rows in total. And let's not forget to move up our stitch marker to our first stitch. So I have finished with my back. As we can see, we have created a front panel, a back panel, and the armhole right here. And we are ready to get started on the other front panel on the other side. And away from our hook, once again, from this corner, I counted 20 stitches and place a stitch marker. And I've chained one, and I'm going to be placing a half double crochet in my first stitch and move my stitch marker up to my first stitch once again. And I am going to be repeating the same process as we did on the other side, and we are going to be doing half double crochet in the third loop all the way across to the stitch marker. And at the stitch marker we are going to be chaining 21. I am finishing up my row of half double crochet in the third loop. Now I have reached the stitch before my marker, and I am going to be chaining 21. I have turned my work, and I am going to be doing a half double crochet all the way across my chains, and I will start in the second chain from my hook, so 1, 2, and I am going to be doing exactly the same as what we did for the other panel, the other front panel. And we are going to do half double crochets across the chains, and once we reach the back panel, we will be doing half double crochet in the third loop again. I'm finishing my chain of half double crochets, and I've reached the back of my sweater once again. I will resume doing a half double crochet in the third loop. So I'm finishing my row of half double crochet in the third loop, and once again I will be placing a regular half double crochet in the very last stitch. I am going to chain one and turn my work, and we are going to continue doing the same row of half double crochet in the first stitch, move up our stitch marker, and we will be continuing to do half double crochet in the third loop all the way across, starting and finishing with a regular half double crochet. And we are going to be continuing this row for a total of 18 rows for this second front panel for this size. So I have finished my panels, and I am ready to get started on my sleeves, but before we do that, I am going to be seaming at the shoulders. So I am going to be folding my sweater inside out, so I'm going to have my wrong side facing out, and both sides are pretty much the same looking, and so I have decided to use the wrong side where I changed my yarn, and I have all these ends I need to weave in at some point, so I will be using this side as my wrong side. And in order to seam my shoulders, I am going to be using yarn and needle, and I am going to be using a whip stitch. So for the corner, I like to go through a couple of times just to make it nice and secure. And the whip stitch, I am going to be inserting my needle on the back side of my fabric, and I need to find these other pieces right here. I'll put them out of the way, and I am going to be inserting my needle from the back side to the front and pulling on my yarn, and I'm going to be repeating this all the way across the shoulder seam, and I am going to be doing this on both of the shoulders, my left and my right, and continue to insert my needle from my back side of my fabric all the way across. I have some loose ends here that I want to get tangled from the back to the front. I'm going to flip this over, and I am going to repeat this all the way across. I have finished seaming my shoulders. Now I'm ready to get started on my sleeves. I have turned my sweater the right way around, so I have my right side facing out, and I have attached my yarn at the armpit, and I am going to go ahead and do a chain one, and I am going to do a half double crochet in the very same stitch, and I am going to be doing a row or half double crochets all the way around. And for this size, I am going to be doing 43 half double crochets. So this is roughly 1 half double crochet per stitch going around, but there's an extra 3 stitches. So just put them in where you see fit. I'm most likely going to put them at the shoulders, and maybe another one at the armpit. So 43 for this size. I am finishing my row of half double crochet, and I am going to be doing a slip stitch on my very first stitch, and I'm going to chain one, and I am going to turn my work. And now we were right side facing on that side, and now I am wrong side facing, and I am going to be inserting my hook in the very first stitch and marking my first stitch once again on my stitch marker, and I am going to go around and repeat this process of doing half double crochets all the way around. I am finishing my row on the wrong side of my sleeve, and I am going to be joining my row with a slip stitch to my very first stitch. I'm going to chain one, and I am going to turn around once again, and I am going to be inserting my hook in my very first stitch and do another half double crochet. And I am going to be putting my stitch marker once again, and I am going to be repeating this 2-row pattern for a total of 28 rows. So the first row will be on the right side of the fabric, the second row will be on the wrong side of the fabric, turning at every row and joining the rows with a slip stitch. And for this size, it will be a total of 28 rows. So if you have difficulty finding your last stitch of your row, here's a little tip. Your first stitch here, just place your stitch marker into the stitch next to it, and just do your slip stitch, your chain one, and turn around. And what will happen is the stitch that you've just placed will mark your last stitch of your next row. And I will insert my hook in my first stitch, and I will take the stitch marker that previously marked the last stitch of my last row, and we'll place it on my first stitch. So I basically switch my stitch markers around, and it helps marking the very last stitch of the next row, only because it can get a little confusing sometimes between this stitch here and this stitch here, which is this is the slip stitch that we did to join our 2 rows together. So just a little pro tip to help you find your stitch. So I am finishing my last row, the 28th row of my size of my sleeve for this size, and I am going to go ahead and slip stitch to my first stitch once again, and I am going to do one more row. I'm going to slip stitch, chain one, and I'm going to turn around, and I am going to do one more row with the right side facing, setting my first stitch and putting my stitch marker on my first stitch once again. So I am going to continue to go around and do a row of half double crochet on the right side. I am finishing my row of half double crochet, and I am going to do a slip stitch with my first stitch once again. I'm going to chain one, and I am going to be switching to my smaller hook, which is the 4.5 millimeter, and I am going to do a row all the way around without turning once again, just continuing on the right side of half double crochets all the way around. I'm going to place my stitch marker on my first stitch, and I am going to continue to half double crochet all the way around. So I have finished my row, and I will join my row once again with a slip stitch, and I am going to chain one, and we are going to be doing a round. Now we're kind of going in rounds of single crochet, but we are going to be reducing our stitch count from 43 to 29 stitches for this size. So I am going to start by doing a single crochet my first stitch. I'm going to put my stitch marker once again, and I am going to do 2 single crochet together in the next 2. So I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, insert my hook in the second stitch, pull up a loop, and pull through all 3 loops. So that's a single crochet 2 together, and I am going to repeat this all the way around. So single crochet and single crochet 2 together, single crochet, single crochet 2 together, I am finishing my round, and I have one more single crochet to do on my last stitch for this size, and I am going to slip stitch my first stitch, and from here I am going to start on my cuff, and we are going to directly attach our cuff to our sleeve. So I am going to chain 13. And from here I am going to start working on my ribbing, and I am going to be doing some slip stitches. So I am going to insert my hook in my second chain from my hook, so 1, 2, and I am going to be doing a slip stitch, and I am going to repeat this all the way across my chain. So I have arrived back at my sleeve's edge, and I am going to find my very first single crochet and do a slip stitch, and I am going to turn my work, and we are going to be working in the back loop only of our ribbing. So our stitch is right here, and we have our V right here, and the back loop is right here, back of the stitch. So we are going to skip, when we turn, we are going to skip the slip stitch that we attach our cuff onto the sleeve and work in the very first stitch of our cuff in the back loop only. And we are going to do slip stitch in the back loop only all the way across. This is a little hard at the beginning, but it will get easier once we have a little bit of fabric to hold on to. And we should have a total of 12 stitches. Now I've arrived at the end. I am going to chain one, and I'm going to turn my work. And I am going to be inserting my hook in the very first stitch and repeating the exact same thing, working in the back loop only, slip stitching all the way across. So I have arrived at my sleeve's edge once again. I am going to insert my hook in the next single crochet and do another slip stitch to attach my cuff onto my sleeve. I am going to turn my work, and once again I am going to be skipping the slip stitch that attach my cuff onto my sleeve and working into the next stitch in a back loop only. And I am going to be repeating these last 2 rows all the way around the sleeve's edge. I have finished my cuff, and now I am ready to get started on the seaming, and I am going to be seaming it together. I have turned my sleeve inside out, so this is the wrong side, and I have fastened off with a long tail for seaming, and I am going to be seaming the edge with a whip stitch. And with yarn and needle, I am going to do a whip stitch all the way along the seam to finish off my cuff. I am going to fasten off. And now that I've finished with my first sleeve, I am going to repeat the same process on the other side to create my second sleeve. So I have finished with my sleeves, and I have blocked my sweater to dimension. Do not block your cuffs. We want them nice and tight. Now we are ready to get started on the edging and the waistband. We will start with the waistband first, and we are going to crochet the waistband separately, and with yarn and needle we will be sewing it on. So I am going to get started with my yarn once again and my larger hook, and we are going to slip knot, and we are going to chain 13. And I am going to be working in the second chain from the hook, and once again we are going to turn around and work in the back bump of the chain, and we are going to be doing half double crochets. I am finishing my last stitch, and I will be chaining one and turning my work, and we are going to create this ribbing. So we are going to be doing half double crochets in the back loop of the stitch, and we are going to repeat this all the way across 12 stitches, and we are basically going to be repeating this until we reach the length of the bottom of our sweater. So we will be having the waistband, and we need to have it as long as the front panel, the whole back, and the front panel again. So just keep doing this ribbing until it measures the whole bottom of your sweater. I have finished my band and I have fastened it off, but I left the yarn still attached. I did not cut it. The reason being is we may need to adjust the length, either making it shorter or longer. And I am going to be seaming the band onto our sweater from the other end of our yarn. And I am going to flatten my sweater with the right side facing upward. And I am going to put my band side by side, just like so. And I am going to be seaming the band onto the body with a mattress stitch. And if I can find my needle, here it is. We are going to be seaming it with yarn and needle, just like so. So I am going to insert my hook, not my hook, but my needle at the bottom of my band. And I am going to do it a couple of times to secure my yarn. And to do the mattress stitch, we are going to insert our needle in a zigzag manner back and forth. And we are going to find gaps in between the actual stitches on one side. And we are going to pull the yarn through just like so. And I am going to go onto the other side and find the gap between the stitches and pull my yarn through just like so. And I am going to repeat the same process in a zigzag manner. So I am going to find a gap through here. Now don't put it through your yarn on the actual fabric, just make sure you put it through between the stitches, through the gaps, and just keep going all the way across, just like so. And once we have reached a little bit of yarn, we just pull on the actual yarn. Don't pull too tight, otherwise the backing of the actual seaming is going to be a bit too stiff and it will be uncomfortable to wear. So and we just are going to continue all the way along the seam of both our band and our sweater until the whole bottom of the sweater is finished. Once you reach the other side, if need be, we may need to either shorten it or make it longer, but since we haven't cut the yarn, we can just do that, adjust it as we please. So just keep going until the whole band is attached to your sweater. So I have arrived at the very end, and in my case I have too much of my band, so I have unfastened, and I am going to remove some of my rows. And I am going to cut my yarn, and I am going to fasten for real this time. There we go. And I am going to finish off seaming my band onto my body. And at the very end, I always like to seam and go through a couple of times just to make it nice and secure. And before that, I'm going to pull here a little bit. Once again, I'm going to loosen it up. Don't want to make it too tight. And I'm just going to go around the end a couple of times to secure it. And I am going to fasten off. And we are now ready to get started on our edging for the neckline. So now that I've finished my waistband, we are ready to get started on our neckline, which we have to do all the way around here and all the way to the end up to our waistband. So in order to do that, we are going to grab our larger hook and our yarn once again, and we are going to slip knot, and I am going to chain 8. I am going to be working in the second chain from the hook, and once again we are going to be turning our chain and working in the back bump only and doing half double crochets all the way across. And we will have a total of 7 stitches, and we are basically going to repeat the same process as the waistband, and doing a chain 1 at every turn and doing half double crochets in the back loop only until the edging measures the entire neckline. So I am finishing my last stitch, and I am going to be chaining 1. Got a little trouble here with the yarn. Chaining 1, and I am going to turn. I am going to insert my hook, my first stitch, and do half double crochets in the back loop only all the way across, and continue to do this until my edging measures the entire neckline. So I have finished the edging of my sweater, and once again I have fastened it off without cutting the yarn, and I will be attaching it exactly the same way as I did my waistband, and with the yarn and needle I will be starting on the opposite side of the yarn, and I will be using the mattress stitch all the way along until I get to the other end, and I will be fastening off. Now that I have finished with my border, we are going to get started on the pockets, and we are going to be making 2 of these squares. So to get started, I am going to grab my larger hook and my yarn, and I am going to make a slip knot, and I am going to chain 16. Now that I have my chain started, I am going to turn my chain. We are going to work in the back bump once again, and I am going to insert in the second chain from my hook, and I am going to do a half double crochet. And once again, I am going to mark my first stitch. And I am going to repeat this process all the way along, doing some half double crochets in the back bump of our chain. I am finishing up my last half double crochet, and I am going to chain 1, and I'm going to turn my work. You should have a total of 15 stitches, and we are going to insert our hook in our first stitch, and we are going to be repeating this row for a total of 12 rows. So just repeating all the way across half double crochets for a total of 12 rows. I am finishing up my last row, my 12th row of my pocket, and now we are going to make a border of single crochet all the way around. So I am going to chain 1, turn my work, and I am going to go ahead and single crochet in my first stitch, and I am going to continue to single crochet all the way across this first side and when you get to the corner, chain 1, do another 15, chain 1, another 15, chain 1, another 15, and we will slip stitch to our first single crochet once we have done the four sides. I am finishing my last single crochet, and I'm going to remove my stitch marker, and I am going to insert my hook and slip stitch into my very first stitch, and I am going to leave a tail for seaming, and I am going to fasten off. We are now ready to get started on sewing our pockets at the bottom of our cardigan. I suggest you try the cardigan on so you can position your pocket exactly as you would like to have it on your cardigan. And I have secured them with some safety pins on my cardigan, and I am just going to start with my needle and thread. And I am going to go ahead and do a whip stitch on my corner, and I'm going to do it a couple of times to secure the corners so they're nice and secure. I'm going to remove my stitch marker, and I'm going to go ahead and whip stitch all along my edges of my pocket, all the way around. And I will be repeating this for the other pocket. And like I said, just try on the sweater, the cardigan, just to make sure you have the pockets exactly where you like to have them.